Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of Morbid Instinct. Tonight, we are talking about the Netflix documentary from 2019, The Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. I know most people that are listening to this probably have heard that name, may not know all the intricacies of what happened, but I'm sure you've heard of her name and some about it. So basically, we watched the 8-episode series about Madeleine McCann's disappearance. Just in case you don't know or just need a little refresher. So she was a 3-year-old little girl. Her and her family were on vacation in, I think it's Praia de Lutz. I can't say.
Praia de Luz. I think
Praia de Luz. You said it better. In Portugal. And she went, and this was in 2007, and she went missing. This was in May of 2007, and she went missing. And as of today, they still have not found her. They don't know what happened to her. And it's been, actually, as of today, it's been 15 years, 3 months, and 17 days that she's been gone. So, I mean, she would have been 19 years old this year. So basically, it was just kind of going through, talking about kind of the case, what happened, different suspects they had, that kind of a thing. And so we're just going to kind of get into it and talk about what we watched and what we think. So, Colette, if you want to start us off.
Oh, yeah. The first thing that hit me right off the bat was they hit your heartstrings because they showed those pictures of that little girl, and she was so adorable with her beautiful little smile and her precious little look. She was just beautiful all over. And then to hear that she was missing, it just pulled at you right there from the very beginning. And
I agree.
It just touched me. So, yeah, made me very emotional throughout the whole thing. So, anyway, that was my intake so far.
No, I mean, I agree because I can't even imagine. I mean, the parents then, or even to this day, I mean, not knowing. I mean, that's just, I can't even.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing too. Is like, that they still to this day don't even know what happened to her. But
right,
and they took all that time. They botched up. The police botched up everything basically, and then they blamed the parents forever. It seemed like, and then they finally realized that it wasn't the parents. You could tell every time the parents did an interview all over the world. I mean, you could tell it was not the parents, and they were trying to blame them.
Oh, yeah. I think that's the main thing. I think the cops didn't really know how to do the stuff that they were doing because they were going after anybody. And at one point, didn't, because there was a guy that was talking to I guess because he knew that there was different languages and stuff, that he knew how to talk to the cops in Portuguese, I guess, and relay the information to the parents and this and that. The whole
right. Like that.
So we'll get into him in just a minute. So
okay,
let's just talk about. So I just want to get this out of the way because I know a lot of people probably have an opinion about this, about the parents, leaving the kids in the apartment and going to the restaurant or whatever. Which I mean,
and I say that myself. I say they made poor judgment.
Right. And I mean, that's the thing. That wasn't the best thing, but, you can't, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like they knew something was going to happen. You know what I mean?
I was talking to somebody outside of here when we were talking about that we were going to be doing this on the podcast. And we were sitting there and I was like, dude, at least they should have because they were talking about having the window open and this and that and that the doors were unlocked. I was like, okay, I understand that having food nearby is one thing, but why are you leaving the door unlocked and the windows unlocked and all this stuff if you know that the kids are gonna be in there? If you're trying to be separate from somebody, then usually they would end up doing something different for it. They would know better.
Well, that was my. Sorry.
Apparently they felt safe there.
Well, yeah. I mean, also at the same time, it's I just think that there was bad judgment calls, but I mean, I like it made me think of like how I work at my environment right now. It's like because I've talked about it several times. There's like a thing I get a lot of families that will just let their kids go everywhere inside of
Mm-hmm.
where I work and just are away from the parents, just playing around, doing stuff where they're separated from their families so anybody could come over there and take one and just run out of the store and then they would
It's
never
true.
know. And
It's
people
true.
do it constantly. And then that shows, like, when I watched this, it was like, that's the reason why I say that you have to be with your parents and all this stuff whenever I'm there. I'm like, you gotta go over there and be with your family because, like, it takes like a few seconds for somebody to not be paying attention for and that's essentially what
Or
happened this time.
or
Because,
somebody was watching.
oh,
Oh, I
yeah.
Somebody
say
was watching.
somebody was paying
Yeah.
attention.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Well,
I definitely know for a fact. Like when I was watching this documentary, at least I don't know if like people were watching the whole time that they were there, but at least the day that it happened, somebody had to been watching what they were doing. Had to.
Oh no, it was before. They had
I'm
done that more than one on more than one occasion. So I think
well, I'm just
somebody
saying
was
like somebody
stalking.
was paying attention to what they were doing. I
Somebody
just
saw
don't know
that.
how many days they were paying attention to it.
Yes, somebody saw that little girl and wanted her and was
Mhm.
watching and looked for an opportunity to take her, and they took her.
So what
Or
we're kind of talking about audience just to catch up a little bit is on the documentary it was talking about. So they were staying at the Ocean Club in the Algarve region in Praia de Luz, Portugal. And they rented an apartment there, and they were there with a couple other couples. I don't remember how many couples. I think there was like 7 families or something that were
yeah, it
there.
was a
Yeah,
big
it was a
group, and
nice.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so basically, what happened was the parents were basically going over to this tapas restaurant that was supposedly like 100 yards away or something from their apartment. It was on the same complex as the Ocean Club. But they would leave their kids in the apartments, and then they were making a deal where like one of the parents would go every 30 minutes to check on their own kids or something like that. So that's kind of what we're talking about, as far as, because they were saying that they left the gate unlocked, they left the door unlocked, that kind of thing, which was probably not the greatest thing. But I mean, I don't want to play blame game on the parents or whatever, because my God. But
Well, I mean, like you got to think about it. If they were checking on all the kids like every 20 minutes or like going up in there, then they shouldn't have to like have everything locked up the whole time. But I know for me, my thing is I lock the door like every time if I'm inside or if I'm
Mhm.
leaving the house or whatever, I
Mhm.
lock all the doors before I leave. So
Yeah.
like, and then if I am a parent that I know that my kids are going to be in there, I'm definitely going to lock the doors, even though that I'm going to be nearby. I'm still going to lock the doors. So I think that's essentially like what made it easy for this dude or a dude,
Yeah,
female,
whoever.
whoever took her in the first place. Like how it was able to happen so easily, because I mean they were even talking about that it's a possibility that the kids were drugged because they were just saying and it was funny how they were
Yeah, but
blaming the
that's
parents.
all speculation,
I
though.
know it's
I
all
yes.
mean,
speculation. They can't
because
find any of this stuff.
well, unless they tested the other twins, they have no idea. I
Yeah,
mean, from my perspective, again, I remember when I first started watching it, I mentioned the fact that they were. I mean, I'm not placing blame either, but they should have never left that apartment or whatever you want to call it with the
Left
doors
them
unlocked.
alone. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
That should have never happened. And then what bothered me, I think it was in one of the later episodes, and I understand you being upset about your daughter being taken, but to be pissed off at the restaurant for putting details on a ledger sheet or a schedule that
Oh
said
yeah.
about the kids being left alone.
Oh
Well, why
yeah.
would you even tell the restaurant that? Why
Yeah,
would you tell anybody
But
that?
but you
yeah,
can't blame the restaurant for writing it down. I
yeah,
Yeah.
mean, it's their fault that they left the kids there. by themselves.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, plain and simple, and that's why I said I'm not placing blame, but at the same time, you got to take some responsibility for what you do.
It definitely wasn't a good choice.
Especially also at the same time, they could have picked up stuff from the restaurant and then been nearby.
Well, they could have
They
eaten
didn't
in
need
the room.
to eat there.
They could have eaten in the apartment or the room.
Well, that's what I'm
On the
saying. They
patio.
didn't like,
Or on a
even if they were
patio
wanting to get sauced up or whatever, they could still be around. Like,
So I
near
mean,
the
just like
kids.
with that, you don't know how accurate their timelines are either. I mean, I find it hard to believe that they were really going every 20 minutes.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Especially
well,
if
there was
booze was
speculation because
involved.
they said the restaurant people were saying, and because they were like, if they were somebody was getting up every 20 to 30 minutes, I mean, it would have been like a big production. But they were saying the restaurant people were saying that's not what was happening.
Well,
they did revise their timeline a couple times too, I think. So I'm not sure.
But to me,
I mean, it could have been. Oh, sorry, Mel.
But to me, all this really doesn't matter. Is that they lost their daughter that evening, and they've had to live with that choice.
Right.
This whole time, and
I'm sure they've had guilt. I'm sure they've had a lot of guilt.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, for making that choice and not being.
Yeah,
I mean, I think unfortunately they made that choice, and I think I think somebody was watching and knew the timeline of what was going on.
Yeah, definitely somebody was watching. Like, I was talking to somebody outside of it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, it could have been the security guards because they would have known like everything how everything worked in a certain spot, and especially how to get in and out of the place and all this stuff." But they were also talking about like that there was a guy that they didn't see the face on him, and then noticed that he had this girl in his arms, and then they couldn't recognize the face. I'm like, yeah, because honestly, not a lot of people are going to cast suspicion on like some random ass dude having a girl in his arms and just walking down the way or whatever. So so like that's the only difficult thing. Not a lot of people are gonna just call it out and be like, "Oh, that seems kind of weird," especially just seeing down the road. Like the lady feeling like guilty at the time. I'm like, you shouldn't be feeling guilty over something that you didn't, and like you don't know. No, I'm saying like she still
saw him, Josh.
But I mean, also at the same time, it might be a possibility that that wasn't him or her or whatever. But I mean,
so what Josh is talking about is that one of the witnesses of one of the people that were there with them was walking to go check on the children, and she saw a man carrying a child that had like pajamas and stuff on, and now she's thinking now that might have been Madeleine.
That was Tannerman, right? Or whatever. The forensic artist.
But they're not. I mean, they're not sure. But obviously, she has a lot of guilt now that she didn't say something. Yeah. But it's like, how do you know if you say something at the time if you don't know that something is happening?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't know. You shouldn't have guilt on something where you find out after the fact something went down. Especially because I mean, I would have been freaking out at the time if like she was not there. I would have been like going everywhere, and some people were like, I mean, it was cool how like the whole town was helping though. Like everybody there was going everywhere.
The couple that was in Morocco, remember? And they saw a little girl with a woman in the gas station, the petrol station. Yeah. I mean, you could tell when they were talking, as upset as they were getting, and the lady was about ready to cry, that I think they feel guilty that they didn't say something, but they didn't know anything at the time. I mean, you could tell they were upset that they didn't know.
How would you know?
That's what I'm saying. You don't necessarily think about it until after, like after you find
because you don't know that you're seeing something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're like, I don't know that I'm.
If you just see a person or a girl with an adult, how the hell would you know?
Well, I think some of it.
The one instance where we had in San Antonio, where we're behind a car, where there's somebody in the trunk of the car
waving their hand
at us from behind, and then they closed the trunk after that
and drove sped off.
Yeah.
So in that instance, we called the police that when we got home and reported it. And reported where they actually went. We didn't follow the car because we couldn't get into I think it was a gated apartment complex. But we had an instance where it's not like that happened. Like,
but that was like a super weird thing. I mean, people aren't in trunks and stuff, so we were like, what the heck,
I'm saying. It's not an instance like that where.
Yeah. Well, because I think also people, because they had that crush that had the kids that were babysitting the kids. So maybe she thought it was just a parent bringing one of their kids back from there to the apartments or whatever.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You can't it's a difficult thing because you sit there and
Josh, you got to look at it from her side. She sees this man carrying this little girl in his arms. She has no shoes on. She's in pink pajamas. She thinks afterwards, when she finds out Madeleine's gone, oh, she had a chance. Of course she has regrets. Who wouldn't have regrets?
I'm not saying that she isn't I'm not saying that she's not understandable in that. I'm just saying that she shouldn't let it get to her that she shouldn't have guilt. Like if she would have said so. No, I'm just saying if she wouldn't have said something, that's the catalyst for how she got away, because she didn't say anything at the time, mostly because you wouldn't never known until afterwards. And then also at the same time, you don't know if that was just another dude. I would understand.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know. It could have been another parent.
I would understand if they got together and they were like, "What type of pajamas was she wearing?" And she's like, "These were the ones that they were wearing," and they're like, "Yeah, that's what they look like, right? That's what stuff that the PJs look like that."
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
But I don't know if they talked to even this chick. If they even talked to her beforehand. She just went out of her way and talked to people.
About the cops
that's
in a little bit, because I think we all have a lot to say about that.
That's what I'm saying is I don't know much of that, but
let Elaine talk.
Or go ahead, Jeremy. Did you have something to say?
Oh. Who's talking about the police officer?
I said we'll get into that in a minute, because I know that we all have something to say about that.
oh yeah, for sure.
Go ahead,
I just wanted to clarify, people are going to have that type of guilt when something happens after the fact, regardless. I mean, you've heard of survivor guilt, right, Josh? Where somebody lives and they have guilt for actually surviving a crash.
When nobody else did.
Other people. It's kind of the same thing. I mean,
it is.
She, after the fact, she feels, well, if I would have said something.
Yeah. But at the time, she probably didn't think it was anything.
Well, why would you? Again,
I know.
You don't know who it is.
Yeah.
You don't see him really from far away. She probably wasn't right next to dude.
Well, no, because she didn't even see his face.
She didn't see his face. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So she was far enough away to where she could not make out anything. Besides the color of the clothing, pretty much.
Right.
And at that point, did she even know what Madeleine was wearing that night?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, because if you couldn't tell the face, I mean, you couldn't tell. That's what I was saying. If she
she wasn't close enough then.
About it,
you shouldn't have guilt, but after the fact, people naturally.
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody's blaming that woman.
No,
but she's going to blame herself.
No, people naturally would have it.
Yeah,
I wasn't saying she isn't in the right or whatever for feeling that way. I was just saying it shouldn't let her she shouldn't feel. I don't know. If it's
person,
killing
I mean,
her,
that's
it's
normal.
killing her, knowing that she could have done something and then she didn't, that's what I'm saying. She shouldn't hold on to that pain or the guilt and stuff that much for it, because I mean, anybody could have went into that situation and still done the same thing, and mostly because it's a difficult situation. That's why that's why there's a lot of things in this story that I think, especially a lot of things that was just weird, that was mishandled and everything.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll get into all that. We'll get into all that. So I'm trying to go a little bit how the episodes kind of went. So the first one was the beneath truth. So that was kind of when they were just talking about what happened, kind of the timelines that the parents and their guests had and that kind of a thing. And then we kind of pivot to the next one, which was person of interest. So that's the one where you guys were talking about Robert Murat. was basically their first person that they thought had something to do with it. And they basically thought he had something to do with it because they said he was too involved. So he was a gentleman that he was British, but he lived in Portugal. He lived there. So he spoke Portuguese and English. And he said they were having some issues communicating between the two languages. And so he was trying to help kind of bridge that gap.
And he lived across the way, too.
Right. And he was very close to where it was at. So they said that he was very, like, almost too involved, wanting to know too many things or whatnot. So that kind of made them very skeptical of him. Plus, the journalists got involved and said that they kind of found him sketchy. So then it became a whole thing with him. So he was basically questioned, like, exhaustively and basically dragged through the mud.
Well, this is the same shit I talked about. Excuse my French, but with the way the media and everything else can.
Oh,
destroy
things. Yeah. An example of this is why people do not want to get involved.
Well,
this is a perfect example of that.
But it also goes back to what the media does or anybody does with the internet involved too.
Twisting everything. Twisting everything all around.
Yes.
These previous podcasts we've done where somebody gets tied to something. Which one was it with the heavy metal guy?
It was the Cecil Hotel one.
The Cecil Hotel, yeah.
Where that guy got vilified and he wasn't even
wasn't even involved.
Wasn't even involved at all. And see, at least this one, the guy was there.
At least he was there and trying to be.
But at the same time, it's like, really?
And he lived across the way from
especially
what
they went after him. Then they went after this dude that made a website for him.
Yeah.
And then
so
they were
wait, hold on, don't go so.
Oh, I thought that was still in the same episodes.
Well, I guess it might have been. It might have been the oh my gosh, what was his name? Sergei Malinka, I think is who you're talking about.
Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I was just going to add that with Robert Moret, they also found him suspicious because he acted like a guy that in England that actually did kill
the
two schoolgirls.
Ian Huntley.
I know his last name was Huntley, but
I think it was Ian Huntley. Yeah,
the
school caretaker.
Yeah. So just because he acted like that guy, I guess that makes you. I don't know. That's kind of. I don't know.
That's like a stretch.
Yeah, a little
that's
bit.
a reach.
Seriously, I mean. Because he helped. The only reason I think he helped is because he knew Portuguese.
Yeah,
he did because he knew Portuguese and English. So he was trying to bridge the gap between the language barriers.
Yeah,
is what he was trying to do. Is what it sounded like. Anyway,
nuts to me. And then I'm glad he got the money.
But like Josh was saying, that the Sergei Malinka was weird to me. I'm like, okay, so you're going to go after a guy that made a website for Robert Moret. All of a sudden, he's a suspect. That was kind of weird to me. I didn't get that.
They took all the hard drives out of his house
that weren't even
his, and then tied them back to him.
Yeah,
like they were his.
Yeah,
it's like what he's like. Well, I get hard drives from people all the time.
Yeah, because he's a computer guy.
I mean, so.
Well, and he also
him if they.
Well, he also said that
as far as
he also said because they came out and said that he had erased all the hard drives. But yet they came back and said they found stuff on the hard drive. So he's like, okay, so they found stuff or I erased all of them.
Well, it's just like when at one point when they picked him up, they didn't talk to him in the car and he was there for 3 or 4 hours. And then he was like, yeah, it was because they were waiting for a warrant to like search his home. I was like,
yeah, they picked him up like they were kidnapping him or something.
Yeah. And then
in a car and you don't say, like you said, drive him out to wherever and don't talk to him and don't tell him anything and take all of his phone and all that stuff.
Didn't they also destroy his car? I remember them talking about something and him talking about in the later episodes.
I don't remember him saying who set the car on fire, but he came out and his car was on fire. And there was that something written on the ground that meant speak. It was Portuguese for speak or something like that. But I don't think they ever said who actually set the car on fire. Like, I don't think they know.
Well, again, that went back to the whole it could have been just somebody out of the
yeah, it could have been anybody.
Because it's just historically there's things that happen to people that aren't even involved. Like let's say parents get, letters or something because of something their kids did.
Uh-huh.
It's like, well, it's not the kid's fault or it's not the parent's fault necessarily that the kid did something. Why are you sending letters to the parent?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did say something, though, about a phone call. There was some kind of phone call, I guess, between Robert Murat and Malinka at like midnight or something that night.
Did they say how long it was? I don't even remember them talking about it.
They didn't really say anything in depth about it. They just kind of said it happened.
They said, I don't even remember that.
And they
neither
searched
one of them remember anything, so...
And it was funny because I think they were really trying to hope that this guy was the one who did it, because they went after... It was that. Then they went after like his family's building or something like that. Like they
definitely wanted him or the Malinka guy to confess.
Well, that's what I was saying. They looked through like so many buildings that was tied to him, trying to find stuff, and then they still didn't find anything. And then
I want to bring something up right now.
Okay, go ahead.
The dogs things totally freaked me out when they used the dogs, and then they honestly thought that the dogs were it, and that's why they decided to charge Kate and Jerry for the crime anyway, was because the blood and the cadaver dogs.
Yeah, so after they basically kind of moved on from Murat and Malinka, then the cops, they used these dogs that were supposedly trained to sniff out corpses, basically, or decomposing bodies. Yeah, cadaver. So one did the cadaver, and one could sniff out blood.
And it was human blood.
Yeah, human blood. So they brought these dogs in, and they did it on the apartment.
Yes,
and
the apartment.
In the car, the back of the car that they had rented.
Yeah.
That they rented after
25 days. 25 days after she went missing. Yeah. So basically, this guy came in, and so the dogs, both of them went in separately, but they both did their detection in the same spot. So there was like a spot behind a couch, I guess, in kind of the living room area. And then there was one in one of the bedrooms.
And I know one of them was in the boot of the
something
car.
Like that. But it's like
one in the car, yeah.
Did they ever show the pure certification on these dogs? I mean, shit, they could be smelling the same thing.
But the thing gets me is they're like, okay, but my problem is too is though, okay, these are also places that like have been rented by thousands of people. The car and the apartment have been rented by thousands of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know whose human blood or whatever that it could be. That could be anybody's.
Well, that was the other.
They're even talking about the actual DNA when they tested it, and it came back like they were saying the car specifically. I remember them saying that the one lady was saying you're supposed to have like 20 markers or something, and there were like 15. And she said, and that may seem like that's good, but she said, but if you think about it, the parents were in the car, the brother and sister were in the car, and she shares DNA with the parents, so it's like you can't even tell.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who? You know what I mean? It could have been the doctor or anything doing whatever, and you're just, you know what I mean? It's just odd.
It was totally ridiculous to me. It was like a waste of their time.
Well, it was because the cops just went right with that and said, oh, it's her. Well, the one journalist was even saying she was lied to. They were telling her that it was absolutely Madeleine.
Oh, yeah.
And then she comes to find out that's not true.
Well, think about what they did with that PI firm that they hired. Remember what was it, Mikado? They talked about the Mikado
3.
What's it called? Mikado 3 or whatever, where the guy that was doing the investigation was finding stuff, but what was being reported was not.
Well, yeah, his boss was saying all kinds of other stuff.
And that they had all this evidence, and
he's like, we don't have anything.
So it's like the luck that they had. And who they were bringing in, and we'll get into that later because later episodes.
I mean, my thing is they went right for the parents and all this stuff, and I'm like, and then they're saying, oh well, they're not acting right. She doesn't seem as upset, and I'm thinking, okay, well, first of all, how do you know how you would react in that situation?
Well,
and they said they were trying to like keep it together on TV.
But I think that was because they had this and I'm going to preface this too by saying it must, and I'm not going to say that, but it must have been nice to have a millionaire funding all of your efforts. Because the normal person like me and Elaine
it would have been crap out of luck.
Screwed. Because we wouldn't have been able to do everything that they were doing. Wouldn't have been able to fly on a private jet everywhere they were going.
Mhm.
doing all the media appearances they were doing. And then, but again, they had a PR firm, and I think they had media connections. They were talking about that early on.
But here's
So
my
it's like,
thing. If the cops think that the parents did it, why would you draw that much attention to yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and why would you go all over the world
Yeah,
to
why would
try
you
and
do
find
that?
your
well, it
daughter
could
if
be
you
said
did
you're
it?
trying to throw it off by acting like you gave a shit. I mean,
Yeah, but there were a couple times you saw her
No.
break down, and you could tell as a
no,
mother
I'm not
that
saying that
she was having a hard
that's why
time.
they did it. What I'm saying is it could be seen as that. It's like, remember, I was pointing out the fact that it kind of seemed weird to me that she was carrying that doll around all the time. Like you every time, and it
Not to
almost
me.
seemed like it's
Not
a,
to me.
I didn't think it was
wouldn't
weird
be
either.
carrying stuff around, but maybe
But you're not a mom.
But-
Dads would be
But
different.
my point is
Oh yeah, I
that
would have
in
been carrying it
every
everywhere I went. Everywhere
Yeah.
I went, I
every
would have been
time,
taking
well,
that with me.
but every time they were out, the other thing that bothered me was the other kids were never around.
Well, I'm
Yep.
sure somebody else was watching them for them.
They're
But-
protecting them.
Yeah.
But my point being is that you never saw them until they actually went back home, I think. So
Yeah.
it was like,
Yeah, I would have protected
Yeah.
them too. They just lost one of their daughters. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would be protecting
but they
them
were
too.
never home though. Well, what I'm saying is that I
Well,
understand you're looking for your kids, but at the same time, you kind of have to rely on everybody
yeah,
you're
but
hiring.
I mean, I
to
just
an
feel like
extent.
the dog thing is what really makes a lot of people,
Oh no,
but they don't look at the actual like results of
Well,
that.
yeah.
It's
yeah.
so
Where they
conclusive.
report
There's
stuff,
no
yeah.
way you can.
Well, the problem is that especially when they were starting to talk about like the news website
Oh,
where they had a
that
bunch of the
stupid,
comments where
that
like a
stupid
Yeah.
lot of
police
people were
officer.
where eventually they had to like shut off the comments because everybody was like hating on the family the whole time. It's like,
Yeah, they kept saying, "Oh, they killed her. They did this," and then they were
yeah,
saying, "Oh, the
like
dad's not her
like
real
you
dad,"
think
and blah blah, all this
okay,
stupid crap.
well, I mean, like I think it was the news reporter that was sitting there, and she was like, one of the people was talking about, and they're like, oh yeah, like I would do all the parents did this, hid the body for 3 weeks while everybody's freaking out and doing all this stuff, and then
The
like
whole thing is, how are they
and
going to
then
hide
when
a
they
body when they're like not even?
exactly
I mean, they
that's
were
why it
accounted
just
for like
sounds
all the
so
time.
far-fetched for it to be the family.
Oh yeah,
Because
well,
It would have
it's
been
like,
extremely difficult.
and then at one point they wanted to lump in all the people that were at the dinner, and I was like, no, and like even if this happened, one of them would be snitching. Okay, like at least one of the people would be snitching. You can't rely on like more than one person, let alone 7 people, to
Yeah.
be
So
in cahoots about the whole thing.
yeah. So what Josh is talking about is one of the episodes was called Pact of Silence, and so they're basically because they're saying that the parents either just killed her or she was accidentally killed or something, and then they were hiding everything. And so what they were saying is that they got their friends. So was it like five? There was like 7 of them, like 7 adults, I think. So it was like 5 of them to basically lie for them. And even like the journalists and like other people were saying, well, like Josh, you were just saying that, okay, you can maybe get one person to do that, but to get all of them to do that, that's a little, without anybody breaking, that's a little kind of outlandish.
Like to me, when I was talking about it, like I was like, okay, if it was like anything, mostly because how they were explaining it, I think it was in the second or third episode, I can't remember which, when they're talking about the interviews, when they're talking about like where the timeline for like how many times that they checked in on the kids. The first time it was this one dude that went and checked on the kids. He said that he went in there, looked at stuff. I think he said that there was something in the room, but then he didn't see anything, so he left the door cracked and walked back out. Then 20 minutes later, then somebody else was going to check, and then he was like, no, it's fine, I'll go check. So he goes and checks, but he doesn't really fully check. It looks like he just looks over there, glances, nothing seems awry, and then walks back. And then in that 20 minutes, which I think is the main time when she was taken, was the next person that went went and took him. And then I was like, it's plausible that that dude had something to do with it, just because he sat there and he was like, oh, well, I didn't see anything, and just walked away. And then that was the most crucial time for all, like, that was the most crucial time when it happened, right? So I was like, if they're finding somebody, I would say talk to him. But that's far fetched, though, and it's just a theory. It's just a theory. It doesn't mean that that's actually the case. If
Well, me and
anything,
Jeremy were
even,
talking too that we're like, we kind of think, did the parents were they really going every 20 to 30 minutes?
well,
Did they
that's what I'm
really do
saying.
that?
If you're at
Well,
the
it's
party and stuff like that, and especially if booze is involved, knowing that it's a vacation, I wouldn't be surprised if some drinks were like passed. Like, you think that
To
they're
me,
like their
to,
20 minutes might be more like 30 or 40 minutes. You know what I'm
well, to
saying?
me, to me, all that doesn't matter because she's gone anyway. It doesn't matter how long it took them to go check on the rooms and all that
No, I was
because
just saying, like, if they were blaming these people, especially during the thing where they're trying to get the timeline and they're all like trying to talk to these people. Oh, yeah, they'll start changing their story between 7 people, like when they're trying to get everything as a
yeah,
coherent story. And then, yeah, of course, some of the stuff's changed, right? Because time passes. So then you're not thinking of it as clearly. So then you're just like, and then people are like suggesting in your head, and you're like, oh, well, that is a possibility, you know? So then stories change. But like
Mm-hmm.
having seven
I don't
people,
know.
having 7 people like in there, like, and
No,
then you're thinking that
I don't
all
think
of them
any of
had
them.
something to do with it. It just seems very far-fetched. If anything, even if they did lie about something, I don't think if it was lies for like them taking the kid or whatever. I think if anything, it was
No,
to
I think
make them sound better than they are, even though that
well, plus it's
depending on
like,
the search situation, but that's
yeah,
regardless of the situation. The main thing is trying to find out who took the
yeah, who took her
daughter,
and where's she at?
and that's the main thing. And I think the cops mishandled the situation the whole time. I,
Oh my God, the
I,
cops.
thi- I,
Yeah,
I think
it
that's the
was
main thing. I
purely
think they just mishandled the whole thing. They went after the wrong people the whole time. And
Oh, the
granted,
one
they
jerk.
didn't have a whole
The
lot of damn evidence, but come on, man.
well, the
the
main, so I guess we can get into talking about the cops because I all think we have an opinion about, especially the main guy. And I'm probably going to
yeah,
botch his name because I'm not great at this, but Guncolo Armoral was the main
yes,
investigator in Portugal.
yeah, chief investigator. Yeah,
Right. And I don't know, this guy, I mean, I question him anyway because they were talking about another story about a girl that had gone missing. And that I guess it ended up where they said that the uncle had killed her and that the mom helped. And so they're in prison right now for it. But I guess they were under investigation because there were pictures that came out that said that she was abused by the cops and all this stuff. So they were, I guess him and some other cops were brought up on, brought up
charges.
investigation for
Huh.
saying that they falsified some documents and that they beat this woman basically into confessing
Yeah,
and did
I can
something to
see
the
that.
uncle too to get them to confess. So
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
well, for one thing, he wrote a book
Yeah.
afterwards. He wrote a book afterwards and made money on them. Made
Hmm.
money on Kate and
Oh
Jerry and
yeah.
all the whole story. So yeah, that tells you what kind of piece of work he is.
Well, and he still to this day says it's them.
Oh yeah,
He
Yeah.
wholeheartedly believes
yeah.
it's
Well, I
them.
well,
mean,
if you've
it's
done the investigation, you're going to believe that if
Of
that's where you
course, you
believe
yeah.
it
want to
went.
But
believe that.
it's funny too about this guy because I remember them talking about him, and when they were talking about the case of, I can't remember her last name. I know her first name was Joanna. That happened a few years before Madeleine, which they've never found her either. But they were saying something about that at that time. He was saying that they killed her and then they put her in a fridge or a freezer, right? And then the Madeline comes, and and then he starts saying the same thing about the parents, like, oh, they killed her and they kept her in like a fridge or freezer. And it's like, why do you keep, so kids go missing and everybody's killing them and putting in the freezers? I don't. That's kind of weird too.
I definitely like it's. Well, that's the main thing for me is I think initially why they went after
It
Murat
was Joanne
and then the
Cipriano.
family was because they couldn't find anybody and they knew they wanted somebody to tie the crimes to. So they were just like, they didn't have barely any evidence to find out. I mean, honestly, if you have this door that's unlocked that anybody can go inside of, of course, there's not going to be a lot of evidence. Like, if anything, especially if the dude wore gloves or something. If he wore gloves and didn't touch the doorknob or whatever to open up the door, there's not going to be really enough evidence to, like, unless there was video evidence, and I don't think there was any video evidence either nearby.
I find something interesting too that he was talking about. So, I mean, I know a lot of us have watched a lot of different kind of true crime stuff. And he was mentioning that the window, so he was talking about the shutters being open, right? And he was saying something about that they did fingerprint, whatever, to do on the shutters, and all they found was Kate's fingerprint on there. But then he also mentioned that they didn't find any trace of, like, glove. And I'm thinking, I've never in anything I've watched where usually you can't find anything if somebody wears a gloves. Why would you find something showing that there's glove?
Well, it depends
on the shutter.
if it's latex or whatever, because sometimes you could get
That's
powder
what he
off
meant,
of
was the
latex
residue from
gloves.
the gloves.
But
Well, maybe he wasn't wearing latex.
If you're wearing vinyl gloves, I don't think it leaves a residue because they usually don't have a powder on the gloves. But also at the same time, this is also a theory that I had too, is that they opened the door and then opened the window to throw off suspicion. Right? To make it seem like the dude came in from the window when he actually came in from the door.
Well, I think he came in through the, so I'm going to get into what I said, or what I thought was that she was abducted, and I think it was a human trafficking thing. I would not be surprised if she's still alive.
I think so too.
Just doesn't know who she is. But I think someone came in through the door,
left through the window,
passed her through the window.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think there was more than one person involved in it, and so because you normally have.
Usually with human trafficking, you do have more than one person involved.
I mean, they had that weird stuff happening too. Those people were going around and trying to supposedly collecting money for the orphanage, which was really sketchy. Because they said there isn't even an orphanage or has never been an orphanage near there. I mean, those are obviously people that were scouting to try to figure out, and then that one woman that said, remember that guy came to do that and was looking at her daughter, and then later on she was upstairs doing laundry. She came down and the guy was in the apartment talking to her daughter, and then he ran out or something.
Well, that's weird too. The stuff that I find is weird though, that these people never report this shit.
Or did they report it and the cops never did anything about it?
But if there's a dude in my house, I'm calling the cops.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah, and they said that little girl was 3 years old too.
I'm just not letting him leave and nothing happens.
And never saying anything?
That's not something where I'm not going to say anything. Like, It's not like I see somebody walking outside with a kid holding their hand or something and they're walking. I'm not going to say anything about that, because now if the girl or the boy or whatever is like yanking from the
or screaming,
it looks just weird to me, then it might put suspicion.
Or like that time we were in Walmart and that kid was screaming at the top of his lungs in the bathroom, and I had to go in there because I couldn't.
Yeah,
just in case.
But I mean, if a dude that I don't know is in my house talking to my little girl or just looking at her or something, you damn well, for one, he'd probably get the shit kicked out of him
But that's super suspicious right there. Like, what?
But they also case these places to target certain, like, they probably knew it was a single mom in that house or whatever too, or the mom was home alone. I always tell Elaine.
Well, that's what it is. He probably went over there to see who would answer the door.
Yeah.
And could he figure out, right? Because he probably figured I could take the mom if I had to. You know what I mean?
These things they're watching.
Oh yeah.
And that they probably, in terms of this time, they watched the schedules because they had a set 8:30 dinner time.
Yeah, they watched the schedules. They were talking about the guy at the beach.
So you don't
that was real sketchy.
Have to see a schedule, and that's what bothered me, like I said before, about Kate getting on the restaurant for having the thing.
Well, they don't need to see it written down. They just watch you for days.
That's what I'm saying.
All know what you're doing.
Is watch that you're sitting at the restaurant every night.
And they see that the parents go and there's never any kids with them, but they know they have kids because they've seen them at the beach probably with the kids, because remember the guy at the beach was watching?
Well, that's why I said I wouldn't be surprised if that's how they got rid of them. Like there was a boat waiting.
I think there was a boat. They took her to Morocco. That's what happened.
Right.
That's what I think.
Well, they were right off the water.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. That's the easiest way, and you wouldn't see anybody on the roads. If I'm not saying I would do it. What I'm saying is my thoughts and the way I would do something off of a beach is I would take a boat.
Well, remember that one guy?
Because there is no cameras on the water.
Well, remember that guy that was driving to work and he saw that couple supposedly with the kid or baby in their hand that ran across to the marina?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, they were right near a marina, so it's not like they couldn't.
And they said in 2.5 hours you can get to Morocco on a boat.
Yeah, I mean,
like nothing.
Then you could take them wherever.
And then you could just disappear.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, so that's what I think happened. And again, I don't necessarily think any of these kids that they've probably taken in these same circumstances. I mean, she could not be alive anymore, but
she might be though, because she's only 19.
Well,
but I wouldn't be surprised if she just doesn't know that she's.
She might not, because if it was only 3.
I mean, unless you do DNA on a missing kid, but you don't even know like the purpose of her being taken. It could have been for another family, and then she was adopted out, and she has no idea who.
Yeah, and I have heard of cases of that too, where people, like there was some case of a guy, I think a couple years ago, that went to apply for something, and he found out that he was a missing child. That's from when he was like 2 or something like that.
You'll only happen upon it is if she like does a 23andMe or an Ancestry if she's still alive. But I mean, they haven't found a body, and I mean, it could be anywhere too. But
well, I think it was trafficking too. I think they were scoped out.
Well, I guess apparently you guys didn't check any updates, right?
Well, I think.
Well, I did. I did. I just hadn't gotten there.
I checked. Oh, okay. Because, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, go ahead.
It could be something different. Because the updates talk about they have a suspect.
Oh, yeah, they do. Well, yeah, so what is that guy's name? So there's a prosecutor in Germany, I guess it is. Hans Christian Walters. And he says that this guy Christian Bruckner, yeah. Again, I'm probably bad with the names. To him, that they found significant new evidence against him, I guess in his van, and he's been declared a formal suspect in the case. He hasn't been charged, but he's been like declared a suspect, and I guess he is actually currently in prison right now, serving a 7-year sentence for raping a woman. An American woman at the same resort at the Ocean Club in Portugal. So, and this prosecutor believes that she was murdered. He thinks that she's dead. But I know one of the things I read, one of the reporters that was interviewing him once said something about, well, is it possible that she was taken and into one of those rings or whatever, the sex rings or whatever. And, he didn't confirm or deny that could be a possibility too. So, but.
Well, it sounds like this Bruckner guy, while he was a convicted pedophile and rapist, and there's a possibility he was living approximately a mile away from the McCann family where they were staying. So he in his van. So there is a possibility.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's always a possibility.
Well, there's so many possibilities because there's people talking about that they were, I think it was in Morocco again, remember? And they ran into that woman, asked them something about, do you have the child or something? And I mean, there's just so many, I guess not theories, but just so many different things that you're like, what really?
Yeah, and that's why, I think that's why they were showing, at the end of the last episode, that they were saying that, they were showing, a lot of the other cases where, they escaped from the people when they were kidnapped. Like the 3 kids that were stuck with that one dude and they escaped out of the building or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And then some people where they were, I forgot what they were saying, like a 23-year-old or something that got out too.
Well, they were showing, they were definitely showing the ones that like I guess almost like there's still is hope. There still is hope that she can be found. They were showing J.C. Duggard.
Right. And Pamela Smart or Elizabeth Smart.
Elizabeth Smart, and, like the ones that they did find.
Yeah, and the 3 girls that were
the 3 girls
in Ohio.
What was it, Sean Hornbeck?
Hornbeck from Missouri, yep.
Amanda Berry. I think Amanda Berry's one of them. Amanda Berry and
you're right.
Yeah.
Which is crazy anyway, like whenever you hear this stuff. But I mean, it's a possibility, but in all, I wouldn't be surprised if she has passed right now and stuff like that happened, like, and was in one of those rings, especially. So that's what I'm thinking. I mean, it would be nice if, like, they find her at one point, especially the person that took her too.
Yeah. Well, I'd just be curious to know what the significant new evidence is that they found in this guy's van that makes him believe that she was murdered.
Well, I mean, it could be anything, really. Hopefully they just do better than the freaking cops did.
And all this time, though, it's been 15 years. I mean, what kind of evidence could they find?
Well, to me, the only thing they could have found was her blood in the van.
True.
Her DNA of some kind.
Her DNA in the van. I mean,
True.
And the fact that they haven't reported or charged him would tell me that's not the case, though. I mean, because if they have that, that's a given. 15 years after the fact, if you got her DNA in your van, you did something to her. I mean, you took her.
Yeah, I mean, but if they can actually say it's her DNA.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, it just seems kind of weird.
Well, that's the way I look at it. If Christian did something to her, she's more than likely deceased.
Right.
If a person took her for human trafficking, she could still be out there. And or if she's with that couple that saw the young couple with the child in the car, if she's with them, maybe she had a okay life too. Who knows? But I don't think we're ever going to know at this point what happened to her, and that's sad.
Well, no, like I said, unless they find her passed away, or they find her because she does a DNA test or something. Because if she's alive, she doesn't know who she is, or
she's just been in captivity where she can't.
I doubt she's been in captivity
this long. It's just so sad.
J.C. Duggard was for like 18 years or something.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying it happens. And if you're like 3 years old, you don't. I mean,
that's rare, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's probably the exception, but
rare to be an adult. It's very rare to be an adult in captivity from when you were a kid. Normally, they get, and if you look historically, they get tired of that. So either they.
Yeah, but you don't know what she was told, or I mean, I don't know.
My point is, from her perspective, she was 3.
Right.
I mean, it's not like she was. You ask the kids anything about what they did, even at this point when they were 3 years old, they don't remember.
Well, I don't remember crap from when I was 3. I can tell you that.
Even them, it was. I mean, Liam doesn't remember. He's only, how old he is,
Yeah.
And
he probably doesn't remember when he was 3. So
I just hope she's not in the human trafficking. If that's, I'd rather.
I mean, the thing is, you just don't know because they were talking.
Trafficking is a little bit.
Well, they were talking about murder. They were talking about sex trafficking. They were talking about a couple that wanted to have a kid. I mean, so you just don't. I mean, it's like who knows
those things. I venture to say that. I mean, odds are you haven't seen her in 20 years. Most people are going to say she's not alive anymore. Or 16 years. Most people are going to say that. But I err on the side of when you take a kid in that manner from their bedroom, I just don't see someone killing them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's almost like it was for something else.
Yeah. Most of these, when they get killed, they took them like off of a playground when they were out in the middle of out doing something by themselves, not sleeping in their bed. That's something you're trying to hide, and you're kidnapping them. It's not. I just don't see it. That's where I err on the side of it's a traffic.
Well, I definitely don't think it was the parents. She was taken.
No.
She was taken by somebody.
No, but and they've got to feel extreme guilt even to this point, because again, if it was me and I left my doors unlocked.
I know. But I mean, it's just a lapse of judgment. I mean,
it doesn't matter.
But I feel so bad for them, though. I can't even imagine.
No, but what
I can't imagine what they live with each and every day.
From my standpoint, I would feel extremely guilty because of the fact that
and I'm sure they do.
I didn't do that, and knowing, I guarantee you, and we talked about it earlier, they did not go every 20 minutes. They didn't. I can.
Well, I'm sure they'll always living with guilt. I'm sure.
Yeah, everybody at that table would be, because they did probably have an agreement to check on the kids every so often, but did it happen every 20 minutes?
But I do also think whoever took them, I think chloroformed them or something, and because the twins never woke up, and you're going to tell me you're taking a little girl outside and she's not screaming or anything.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They said that the girl was very sleepy that day, so they could have drugged her during that day, and then she
I'm
just
not saying the parents did it. I'm saying it could have been whoever took her did it.
Anybody that was watching her could have drugged her and then made her pass out. That way, when somebody picked her up, nobody would know because they were all asleep.
Yeah, I err more on the side of they chloroformed her or did something to get her out of there to make sure she didn't make any noise.
Something where she and didn't alert anybody's presence. That's the main thing.
Yeah, because you thought she'd been screaming or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, also at the same time, if somebody was truly passed out, they wouldn't just wake up.
They would, though.
I mean,
if you're picking them up and carrying them for as far as they probably did.
Oh, thinking after they get out of the. I was thinking about when they were in the apartment when they got them out, but one
other thing that kind of disturbs me a little bit is there was a story where they said that I guess it was the day before or 2 days before or something that Madeleine had said something to her parents about not coming into her room when she was upset that night or something. So then it's if that really happened, did somebody try to do it then and got caught or something and left?
But I mean,
you know what I mean? That's kind of.
She would have said something then, but I don't know.
But she's 3, Josh. So I mean.
Yeah.
That goes back to what I was saying earlier. The fact that she was 3 years old, the communication wouldn't even have been there necessarily. But at the same time, there would have been noise made.
Yeah, but it's just like they said when that one guy came to check, but he didn't really go in the room like Josh was talking about earlier. Remember, he heard a noise and he thought it was just a kid rolling over. And then they were saying that could have been it happening right then.
But
I don't disagree with you, but he also didn't open the door. That's why I said there were a lot of complicit acts that happened that doesn't help the situation.
And he had said that the door was a little more ajar than it was before.
Yeah, and there was more light in the room, so I think the window was already open.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying someone came in through the door and left through the window, and that's how they took her out.
So you think she was already gone when he just thought he saw her in the bed?
Yeah, because if they exited through the door would have been shut.
That's what I thought too.
He would have closed the door. Or she, whoever it was, would have closed the door.
Yeah,
I kind of agree with you. I think it was more. I think it was more than one person. Kind of like what you said.
They passed her through. That's the only way you could do it. Think about if I walked over to this window and I tried to take Liam through it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
How am I going to do it? I'm going to be holding and climbing through a window at the same time.
Yeah.
I could see a possibility of there being more than one person.
Yeah.
There had to have been.
And a lot of these viral crimes that you see, there are more than one people involved.
Yeah. It's like a whole group usually.
Trafficking stuff. You listen to it. Girls are a lot of the time, girls that are involved in the trafficking game are the ones that are scoping out the new chicks. And I don't mean,
because they're looked as not as threatening and stuff like that, but they're actually
they're the ones that strike up the conversations with the girls that they're going to take, but the guys are back behind waiting until they get the right signals.
Well, I've even heard stories where older women will get younger women in junior high or even younger to they'll groom them to do it, and then they have them grooming other kids like in school.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, so
Sick. It's so sick.
and this just started earlier. We have there's these pedophile rings that they talked about during this.
Well, that one guy, that main investigator for that private firm, I mean, he basically said, I mean, he's messed up in his mind because when he was going on the dark web, he's like, he saw, but he said he saw things and heard things that he's like, he can never get out of his mind.
Well,
like he's
he has to fake it to get more information.
Well, yeah, he felt bad on some of the stuff he had to say, but he was talking about some of the stuff he saw and that was shared, and he was just like, oh my God.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But to get information, that's the only way you can do it. It's like being undercover, right? You got to do stuff you don't normally do to get more information out of them.
Well, yeah.
And that's another reason I felt bad for the McCanns. They had gotten like 2 or 3 investigators, and they sucked.
Yeah. Well, they were the one guy was taking their money and not doing anything, not paying the people that were supposed to be helping him. He was just he was like fraud.
Here they were trying to do their best, and nobody was.
But at the same time, it wasn't their money. So I mean,
Yeah, but still, what a jerk to be.
I get that, but it was the millionaire's money.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't funding most of this. I wouldn't say they didn't put any money into anything, but the millionaire guy, I don't remember what his name was, but
I know they put the libel money that they won from the journalist case or whatever they put into it, but
you know what I'm saying, though?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the one that was out the money, so they picked the people they wanted, probably.
I know, but
still, it's just like your mom. Like your mom said, it sucked, but that guy did that.
Excuses for it.
Like, what an ass!
It's like taking advantage of somebody.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I know at their lowest point. I mean, geez.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, from my
standpoint,
and to preface on it, this was way too long. These 8.
It did need to be 8 episodes.
No way it had to be 8 episodes.
4 tops.
There were 3 episodes. I think they talked about that Robert Murat guy.
Yeah.
They kept repeating themselves over and over again.
And
so it's like, okay, seriously,
this
it's like move on.
Made for
4 tops, 3 or 4 tops though.
And you would have gotten all the same information out of it that we got in the 8.
I agree. In some areas, it was so slow.
Oh my gosh!
I felt like I was going to fall asleep almost. It's like, come on.
I did fall asleep a couple of times watching this. I had to rewatch them back a couple of times, mostly because, especially I think it was after episode 3, I started getting bored of it. Really, it's mostly because how much can you retell a lot of the time?
Yeah. Oh, another thing I did want to mention about that cop because from the very beginning, the first episode, he opened his mouth and I was like, I already don't like this guy. Because, I mean, I understand people are like, oh, you got to preserve a crime scene. Okay, but your daughter is missing. So I don't think the first thing in a parent's mind is to preserve the room. Right? I mean, you're going to have people coming in and out because people are trying to help you and that's all you're worried about. But yet was already kind of blaming them for not preserving the crime scene. And I'm thinking, really, dude? Are you a parent at all? I mean...
Well, was he referencing them or the cops? Did he say them specifically?
I think he was talking about the parents.
I thought they were talking about the cops, the PJ
or whatever.
I thought that's who they were talking about. Was the PJ was not?
What took them so long to get somebody out there? It was quite a bit of time before any cops actually showed up after they were contacted. Why is that?
That was the whole point of it, because everybody was walking all in Madeleine's room over and over and over again.
Well, that's contamination of crime scenes. I mean, it's like, how do you differentiate?
Yeah, then how do you say, this person,
I mean, that's why I said it kind of makes it difficult, the fact that they were in a hotel room anyways. I mean, think about, like you guys talked about at the beginning, when there's 1,500 million people that rent these places out, they don't clean them to the point where...
Well, no, they say you take a black light in any hotel room and you're going to see all kinds of crap.
So it's like, you can't tell when you pull, even if you found DNA in this place, who's and why, and you'd have to look at the whole roll of everybody that ever rented that hotel room.
But also, if you ever notice, the cases that have lousy investigating processes usually are cold cases. they don't get solved.
Oh
Because
yeah, until somebody's involved that actually can
Yeah.
do their
confess.
job.
Yeah,
Mhm.
or somebody confesses or somebody tells something down the line. That's the
Right.
only way it happens. But by evidence, it's not going to happen because they've screwed all that up.
Oh yeah, because they messed it up and you can't use it.
Like John
Because-
Bonet, I mean, was
Yeah.
one of them. I mean, her case is still open today, and they still are
Well, and that one, don't even.
Oh, we should do a
Yeah.
podcast
maybe
on that one.
We may
That
have
might
to
be a
do
good
a
one.
podcast on because I have a lot of opinions on that.
That would
Oh,
be
yeah.
a good. Oh yeah, that would be a good one. It's kind of like this one in comparison.
Yeah, the
a
only
little
difference
bit.
is she was actually found dead in the
Found.
house.
In her
Yeah.
house, yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
In her
so
basement.
which
And-
is just
and
crazy
Madeline
to
was
me.
not found. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
kind of it was the same. What I was just that kind of goes into this though is that you would probably see that more often than you would.
But you know what?
Somebody just
You were just
kidnapped out
saying
of
though, kidnapped it because Polly Glass was kidnapped out of her bedroom and killed. So I mean, it's just I know what you're saying, but
Yeah,
it's kind of
he
like,
was
but it
found-
has
he was
happened.
Found like within like 2 miles of the house or something.
I know, but I'm just saying somebody went into the bedroom and took her, right? And I
Yeah.
think Elizabeth was the same way. They went into her bedroom
They did.
because her sister saw it happen.
But Elizabeth
She
was
did.
alive too.
Yeah, and
Right.
and her sister always remembered what he looked like too.
Right.
You know, so
I
Yeah.
mean, the only one that you could probably say is Polly Class.
I'm just saying. I just saying that popped into my head where I was like, okay, well, of course that was
She
also
was also older.
that was also I think somebody they knew because wasn't it like a handyman or something that
Yeah,
had
it
been
was
to their
somebody
house?
that- yeah, this
so
was-
that's
yeah.
a little different.
Yeah, when you're
Anyway.
when you're vacationing, they don't know who they are. This was
Well, no,
they
these are just-
scoped out that house or that apartment.
I think they did, and they did it because they knew that it was a high touristy area of British people coming over there.
they had checked that.
And you know, people on vacation have your guard down because you're trying to relax.
Well, they had checked.
yeah.
They knew that door was unlocked.
Oh, they knew. They knew all
Oh, yeah.
that.
They knew the windows were unlocked. They knew all.
I think they were very methodical in what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing, when to do it.
And that's why
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, unfortunately, if they would have locked the doors, it probably.
I just have a
wouldn't
feeling
happened.
with this because they had multiple
I know.
sightings in multiple weird things in Morocco. I think they took her to Morocco, so I think they probably took her on a boat and took her to Morocco. That's
Oh,
what I think.
Yeah, that's what I think.
What happened to her after that, I'm not sure, but
Yeah, and that's why I said I don't know. I just don't think she was killed.
well, I don't know because this new van thing, I'm not sure what they found. And this prosecutor who knows what it is, he believes she was murdered by this guy.
yeah.
Well, then
yeah.
why haven't they charged him?
I don't know. Well, I was reading something. There was
Right.
something about Germany. They have to their legal system. You have to do some. I don't know. There's some kind of big hoops you have to go through before you can actually charge somebody or
That
something.
doesn't make sense because he didn't do the crime in Germany. You're talking about
Oh, I know.
extraditing him to Spain or
guess.
Portugal for.
Well, I'm kind of questioning like why there's a German prosecutor. Like I kind of don't understand all that either. Like why?
I think.
Did you find that out, Colette?
No, I think he got arrested, didn't he?
Well, he's in.
Well, he's in prison right now for raping an American at that same resort in
Right.
Portugal.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But I'm not sure, like, because there's this German prosecutor that's coming out saying they found this stuff, and I'm not sure how he's involved because he's German. So
I
I'm
have
not
no
sure.
idea.
Or maybe the guy is German? Is the guy
He's
German? Christian
His
is
name
German
was
too, maybe?
Christian Bruckner or something.
Well,
like
maybe
that.
it's because he's from Germany or something.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
guess maybe he is.
He's
I
a
don't know.
German drifter.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, really? I mean, if you do something somewhere.
Well, I'm just
I don't
saying
know
it's
if it
become
matters.
this big international thing,
Think
so
about
I'm
the
not sure.
Brittany Griner thing. She's American, but they charged her in Russia.
Yeah, I don't know.
They didn't get an American prosecutor
Yeah, I don't know.
to charge her over there.
Well, I do think that we all agree that the cops screwed up on this one. I think we also
Okay.
agree that she was taken. I don't think any of us think the parents did it. Am I correct in thinking that?
Yeah, big
Yeah.
time correct.
We all think that she was taken. I think we're all, well, I know me and Colette especially are kind of like, we're not sure if she was murdered or if she was in sex trafficking. We're not sure if she's dead or alive.
Well,
Yeah, I would
there's
lean
three-
more towards she was trafficked. But yeah, there's three different: sex trafficking, human trafficking, or murder.
Yeah.
I think those are really the only three.
Well, the other one they throw out there, though, is that somebody might have just taken her because they wanted a kid.
That's the human trafficking.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
yeah, because
The sex trafficking is just for
Yeah, I know what that's, yeah.
Yeah, they did say the woman, she couldn't have children. So, yeah, that's a possibility too
Yeah.
that they
So it's
took
kind
her.
of three theories of we're not really
And
sure.
like I said, when you're 3 years old and you start calling a kid a certain name, they're not going to remember what their original name
Yeah.
is.
Plus, was told God knows what about their
And if
story
you
and
never
stuff.
tell them anything else, that's what I
Right.
was saying. I mean,
Well, they say there's like stories like they could have told her whatever, and then she could have suppressed any kind of memory that she had before that of the McCanns. And
Yeah, she
maybe
could
as
be
an adult,
brainwashed.
she doesn't remember anything.
well, she's 15 years removed.
Yeah,
from it.
she
If
just
still
turned
alive
19
right
in
now.
May. If she was still alive, she would have turned 19 in May.
I mean, so
If she's still out there. Which is interesting because the last updated picture I saw online was from 2012. So I'm like, they haven't done any updated. You think they would have done another updated picture because she's an
Yeah.
adult now.
yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it's
'Cause
too difficult for the parents. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean that one guy that was part of the abused, exploited children, whatever. He
Yeah,
was saying that he says that
for
he
missing
thinks that
innocence.
we'll find out what happened to her in his lifetime, but I don't know. I'm like, it's been all this time. I don't know if we'll ever know.
It'll be the
What?
DNA that gets you to her.
But you got to
I-
find it somewhere.
Well, all
Yeah.
she has to do is upload it.
Well,
Oh, you mean if she does take the thing one time?
Yeah, if she has any thoughts of that she's not like, they better not tell her she's adopted.
What I don't get though is if she was still
If she
alive.
is
I mean, she's
alive.
got that. What is it? Her left eye or her right eye has that
She's not
weird
the only one
pigment
that
thing.
may have that, Mom. I mean,
I know,
the
but that's
thing.
kind of an odd.
Yeah, but it may have changed over time.
Yeah, maybe. I
That
guess.
may have been a young baby thing, or something that she had when she was little.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? I mean, again, you don't know unless you saw her, right?
Right.
I mean, so, and that was the other thing too with being little. How many little girls are there that all look alike? Yeah, especially
Well, I mean, because some of those
pretty
pictures they were
cameras.
doing, I mean, yeah, those cameras weren't great. So it's like that one that they found in the mountains. Well, yeah, on the camera it kind of looked like her, but then obviously you could tell when they actually saw the
Oh,
girl.
yeah.
Not her.
yeah,
You could totally tell it wasn't her.
yeah, you could
Anyways,
tell.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so what do we?
Well, anyway, I do want to put out there though before we close, I do want to put out there since she is still missing and we don't know if she's still out there. They did show contact information at the end of each episode. So if you do know anything about the case, you can call or you can contact the Metropolitan Police in the UK at 44101-207. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's like
440-207-321-9251 or email at operation.grange at met.pnn.police.uk. Or in Portugal, you can contact the Policia Judiciaria at 351-282-405-400 or email dic.portimao@pj.pt. So
Yeah, we'll put those in the description of our podcast too. But I just wanted to, what was it? I was wanting to point out. I thought I wanted to point out something else.
and we did look those up. They are still. I wanted to look up to make sure they were still relevant since the documentary was from 2019, and they are still relevant and active.
Yeah, we'll put links to their websites too. But what was it? I guess maybe there wasn't something else I wanted to point out. I thought that there was something when you were reading that off, but I don't remember.
Did I say something incorrect?
I don't think it was that. I don't know. I don't even know. I was watching you and listening to you, and I thought of something, and now it's not there anymore. Anyhow,
Okay, what's our next podcast going to be?
Okay, so I think next time we're going to switch over to Hulu, and they have a new show on there called Who Do You Believe? And so there's 8 episodes. One's a 2-parter, so to basically be kind of 7 different podcasts that we're going to do. We're going to do a podcast on each episode.
yeah. So the next 7 episodes will be on this particular series. So
Yeah, and it'll be kind of, it tells just kind of both sides of a crime, and they'll give you all the evidence and all, if there was a court case and all, they'll give you all of that, and then they'll kind of give you both sides, and then you decide who do you believe. So
Aha! That'll be fun. Aha! It'll be a little different than what we usually do. So hey,
Yeah.
I'm up for it.
maybe it'll be a little lighter, maybe it won't. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time
So.
will tell.
Right. All right. So with that, I think we're going to wrap this up, and we'll see you guys next time. And from all of us here at the Heart of Geek, thanks for joining us, and listen in next time.
Yeah, and if you've made it this far, don't forget to check out our website and our other podcasts that we've got out there. But yeah.
Well, we are the Heart of Geek, and we're on, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the website, Twitch,
TikTok, yeah, all that stuff.
So check us out.
Good night.
Good night.
Peace.